Hey everybody, before we get started on this, I decided to try my hand at a little bit of merchandise for the channel, so you can check it out in the description section below. Let's get into it. Hey YouTubers, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. What's up guys? Today we're going to be talking about American Horror Story Season 10 and what we want to see from that particular season. And before we get started here, I just want to say, on this channel, we have talked about a lot of different ideas for any future season of American Horror Story, and believe me, I have a couple more that have been rattling around in my head over the last couple of weeks, especially since we were getting near the end of season 9. The reason I'm doing this one first is because it struck me last night. I was just sitting around, not even really thinking about anything, and what came to mind was one of these promises that Ryan Murphy recently made, and a lot of people have been speculating on. We haven't really covered it on this channel yet, but I can if you want me to go over it and share my thoughts, but I don't really think it's necessary. Anyway, the idea that next season is going to be bringing in some of the more classic actors from American Horror Story. This has led a lot of people to speculate that Sarah Paulson is coming back, Evan Peters, and maybe even Jessica Lange herself. But unlike those people, I am not going to jump on that bandwagon just yet until we know a little bit more about what next season is going to be offering us. Primarily because all three of those actors, and even some of the other actors that we haven't even talked about here, are very popular and in demand these days, and I really can't see them giving up a substantial amount of their time in 2020 to film an entire season of American Horror Story, even if it is just 9 episodes or even shorter. But it's that mentality that really bred the idea for today's pitch. We already know that American Horror Story likes to jump around between certain times throughout America's history, with the show not even being that afraid to go back even more than 100 years if necessary. So the idea is, what if you do a Hellraiser Bloodlines type storyline that has 3 separate sections throughout the entire season? And if it's going to be 9 episodes, you can section them out either all together or maybe even 3 episodes at a time. Starting in the 1700s with the birth of the nation, going into modern day, and then ending sometime in the future as the characters introduced in that part of the storyline try to explore outer space, but remain on American soil, as Ryan Murphy has pointed out time and time again. And while that, at least in my mind, was an idea to initially get by some of the casting problems that you might have with next season if you bring back some of the bigger people, well, what is going to be the theme of the season if you play out a story like that? And that brought me back to episode 8 of 1984, in which we got to see Bruce's character, played by Dylan McDermott, encounter a Mary Kay salesman as he stole her car and then eventually took her out. But not before he gave a ridiculous speech around why Mary Kay is such an evil corporation in the first place. And that really does get you thinking. They've never focused on corporations in American Horror Story. And given the current economic and political climate, not to even mention the fact that Fox, which owns American Horror Story, was recently bought by Disney, and the Mickey Mouse Corporation seems pretty dead set on taking over the entire world, at least in terms of entertainment. This might just be the perfect time to explore the scary generational and backstabbing nature of American corporations. So with all of that being said, what is the story going to be about and how should it be structured? In my mind, you're going to have to go back maybe even hundreds of years to set up where the story begins with the start of this corporation. I feel one of the things you could do fairly easily is incorporate the concept of the devil and making deals with the devil. While not showing it, you can use the rest of the story to imply that some kind of blood oath was made with the devil in order for this family to be as successful as it is. But ultimately, I feel like this is going to be the least amount of the story that we get. We're just introducing the family and the way that they got their wealth. And possibly just to make the season a little bit more interesting, we wouldn't even see the full extent of how that corporation was built in the first place. That would be a big twist later for the season. So really, we'd be focusing more on the modern day storyline and everything set in the future, potentially jumping back and forth between them as the story dictates in classic AHS fashion. And in terms of what the wealth is going to be and what they did in order to obtain that wealth, I feel like you could focus on something from the Revolutionary War to maybe even the gold rush, the oil industry, or maybe something in entertainment. And just because I'm the one pitching, throughout American Horror Story, we've seen little bits and pieces of real estate and also entertainment organizations. We even got a much bigger look at that in season 9 with Margaret Booth creating an entire corporation that dealt with going to places that were haunted as an escape for people to feel scared. So if it was me, and just because this pitch is allowed to be super on the nose with it, I would do entertainment. I would literally just make it the Walt Disney Corporation of the American Horror Story universe. And honestly, I know that's probably not a possibility. For the last couple of decades, we've seen things that were owned and created by Fox constantly ripping on the Fox organization, but Disney is a completely different beast, and they might not take very kindly to their own properties, making them out to be the villains. So in reality, maybe this would be something related to the oil industry or something like that. When you get to the modern day storyline, I feel like you're focusing on the corporation trying to eat up as much entities as possible and find influence both in government and in entertainment in order to sway the public opinion. One of the things I think you could do with this season that would be very interesting for a lot of longtime fans is use the connection of an organization that's eating up all other entities and buying up influence as a way of incorporating almost every other season of American Horror Story. Some of the easier examples that could slide under the radar is this corporation buying up Margaret Booth's corporation, or at least the remnants of it, from the 1980s. The family could also be involved with the cooperative and maybe even being a part of why the Hotel Cortez was saved in the first place. And if they really wanted to get crazy with it, maybe they could be behind Allie in American Horror Story Cult and her rise to political power. That's not even to mention the possibility of any future set piece being able to deal at least with the fallout of the aliens, the people with the special DNA, and maybe even the apocalypse itself. One of the things that this would do, especially if this season is going to be the last one, is allow for a lot more interconnection between the seasons than we've ever seen. With such a widespread story, it's possible that this one could connect everything and be the definitive end of the entire series. So who would I love to see come back for this season, and where would I love to put them in terms of this story? I think starting with the past storyline, you have to have Evan Peters play the original patriarch of the family. A couple reasons for that is that he has been pretty adamant and outspoken about the impacts that American Horror Story Cult had on him as an actor, and while we would love to see him back, I feel like the other characters in this story are going to have to be far more dark than he is. He might be the catalyst for everything that happens throughout the entire season, but at least in terms of what he would have to do on screen, and because the past storyline wouldn't be taking up the vast majority of the season, he would be allowed to sit back and play a pretty straight-faced character and not have to get too dark about it. Another reason for this is Evan Peters absolutely nails the period piece characters throughout all of American Horror Story. And if he's going to return, especially for the last season, I want to see him play a completely original character that is set in the past, because I think he could nail it. Getting into the modern day part of the storyline, I think we should focus on a couple more classic characters from the beginning of the show. If they're going to bring back Jessica Lange, I would love to see her play the matriarch of the family and the oldest living generation. Maybe with Sarah Paulson as her daughter, and then Emma Roberts and Matt Whitrock as Sarah Paulson's children. Maybe that's stretching a little bit, but it would be pretty interesting. Just having 3 generations of this family living at one time. And throughout this part of the story, you can start chipping away at the mystery behind the blood oath that was made in the past and what it is that this family is supposed to be doing with all of the wealth and success that they have gotten because of that deal. In the future storyline, I would love to see Cody Fern play the main character and the only surviving member of this family. Having him take on a Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk type of personality, as he is the most idealistic person that we've ever seen from this family, using his wealth to advance technology to go into space. One of the things I think would be really interesting with that storyline is that it would allow for the introduction of the aliens again, but also butt up that storyline with the implications of the blood oath. I know a lot of people in the comment section below have said that Ryan Murphy has said that he does not like the aliens, he doesn't want to explore those anymore, but it seems very likely, like at some point, we're going to get the aliens in a future season. Maybe not the focus of the story, but we could go back to them and also go back to some of the things that he said when they introduced them in season 2, that they are the godlike creatures of this world. And it would be interesting to see the power of the aliens and the power of the devil have to fight each other at some point in the show, and this is a storyline that could directly lead to a confrontation like that. But anyway, guys, like I always say, I am not the person who is paid to sit down and come up with these storylines, these scripts, or putting any of this together. I'm just a big fan who wants a lot from this series, and because of the structure of American Horror Story, I feel like it could survive and do almost anything that it wants to. That's why I'm excited for season 10. I'm excited for the prospect of multiple more seasons to come, and I really hope it doesn't end anytime soon. I hope everyone has enjoyed this video. I want everyone to go down to the comments section below and share your thoughts and opinions, not only on this pitch, but maybe ideas that you have for future seasons of American Horror Story as well. Also, if you're enjoying the content, if you want more pitches like this, more lists, and anything else that I do in this channel, then make sure to like and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload, because it's going to make it so much easier for me to understand what it is that you guys want. Also, go down to the description section below, hit that link, and go follow me on Twitter, where we can talk about American Horror Story, the Saw franchise, the Purge franchise, anything else I cover on this channel. And if you want to do a YouTube channel, I've had a lot of people approach me these days. I'm giving as much help as I possibly can and encouragement to anyone who wants to start this. I have a lot of fulfillment doing this, as crazy as that sounds, when you create it as a hobby and not really focus on it as a job as I do. So, like I said, hope everyone is having a fantastic day. It's been real.